Nintendo Home Video Game Console, Nintendo Handheld Video Game Console, Nintendo Home Video Game Console, Nintendo Handheld Video Game Console, Video Game Cartridges, Video Game Cartridges, yeah, Video Game Cartridges again. And it doesn't take a genius to figure out what's on those video game cartridges. It's good to see Nintendo's breaking some new ground here. Now, before everybody skins me, I just wanted to say that was to get your attention. I don't actually hate the Nintendo Switch, which is kind of why I'm reviewing it. In fact, this is probably one of the more creative consoles they've come out with in a long time. The idea is that you can pretty much play it however you want. You can play it with a traditional controller with the controller grip. You can take the Joy-Cons out of the controller grip and play with just the Joy-Cons individually. You can even play with just one Joy-Con if you're playing something like Mario Kart with a friend. However, the biggest thing is the ability to walk up, connect those Joy-Cons to the console itself, and walk away. And believe it or not, the handheld mode is actually how I've been playing the Nintendo Switch more than anything else, because it's just more convenient to pick it up and play it right on a screen in front of you. And the screen itself isn't even that bad. It's only a 720p display, but for a handheld gaming console like this, it's more than enough. And the screen is a touchscreen. It's a plastic display though, so I would recommend getting a screen protector. And there aren't a whole lot of games that let you take advantage of the touchscreen. This is Little Inferno that I'm playing right now, and it works and it's great, but to do anything in terms of navigating menus or getting back to the home screen, you actually have to reconnect the Joy-Con. Which kind of sucks, because standalone, this game is really fun, because it lets you kind of burn things as you touch them, and I'm kind of into that as a pyromaniac. And another way to play, which, again, Little Inferno uses, and no other games that I own actually use well, is motion controls, which is cool. I don't really find myself using motion controls. I wasn't a big fan of the Wii, and I wasn't a big fan of the Wii U, but considering that this actually is able to do a pretty good job of tracking motion without the sensor bar, like what the Wii and the Wii U used to use, I'm actually kind of impressed. And when it's implemented well, like it is here in Little Inferno, I can actually see it being a viable way of controlling some games. Not all games, but some games, especially this one. Now, in terms of the console itself, not including the controllers, there's not a whole lot on it. You've got power, volume up, volume down, an exhaust vent, which actually becomes quite necessary when it's docked because of how hot the graphics card gets, a headphone jack, and of course the game cartridges slot. Looking at the back, underneath the kickstand, we have a microSD card slot to help expand that 32 gigabytes that it comes with. And on the bottom, shockingly, is a standard USB-C port, which is pretty new for Nintendo considering most of their other consoles have some sort of proprietary plug. And while we're on the topic of different things Nintendo did for this console, the graphics chip is actually under the Maxwell architecture from NVIDIA, the same architecture they used in the GTX 970. Now this is an NVIDIA Tegra, so it's not going to be nearly as powerful, but it's still interesting. And while we're on the topic of graphics, let's talk about how this console actually plays games. It does a really good job. Of course, it's the Nintendo standard fare where everything made by Nintendo is going to look incredible on their console. That's really no surprise. Still waiting for some third-party games, but the games that are available for it right now are actually really entertaining, especially Breath of the Wild. I could go on forever about that, and if you haven't played it already, what are you doing with your life? Go play it. Now. You playing it yet? Come on. Look at this. Go play it. Now, that's not to say that this console and its gaming experience is perfect. If there's a lot of stuff going on screen at once, it's pretty easy to get it to drop frames. Like, watch this. Like, look how much this stutters. So it's pretty easy to get this thing bogged down, but overall, it's still a very enjoyable experience. Especially once you hook it up to the dock, because that dock causes it to go into kind of turbo overdrive, letting it play games at 1080p and speeding everything up a little bit more than it already is in the handheld mode. Speaking of the dock, it's actually pretty basic. There's 3 ports on the back, AC, which is a USB-C adapter that runs to the wall, USB, which is actually full-speed USB 3 for things like an Ethernet adapter at full speed, and 1 HDMI out for the television you're hooking it to. And turn it around to the side and you've got 2 USB 2 ports. That's it. Alright, so now that I'm done beating you over the head with the hardware stats and my opinion on how it games, let's ask the real question. Is the Nintendo Switch a console worth buying? Well, yeah, actually it is. It's a really cool experience to be able to pick up what you were just playing on the television in your hand and keep going. And it also depends on the video game console you already have. In my case, this is the most modern Nintendo console I own. Before that, it was the GameCube. I never owned a Wii or a Wii U. It was basically the GameCube straight up to this. Now, on the other hand, if you have something like a Wii U already, you're really going to have to debate on whether or not you want Switch Minecraft and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, because in terms of the games that this has available to it right now, there's not a whole lot, and in fact its most popular game, Zelda, is also available on the Wii U, so people with Wii U's don't really have an incentive to buy the Switch. But in my opinion, yes, the Switch is a console worth buying. And in fact, it's probably one of the best handheld consoles you can buy. Keep that in mind. When it comes to actually playing it on the television screen, on the other hand, it's okay, but it's definitely not going to hold up to things like the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. But I don't think Nintendo really expects that. Do you?
Deja vu, I just been to space.